We're good. So I'll take it from the top here again. Hello, Norway. Scott Taylor, the Data Whisperer, coming to you from apparently the murder capital of Connecticut. Talk about a fun fact, as you said there. But thank you so much, everybody, for having me today. Hopefully I'm full screen. I have this nifty software where my face is right next to my slides. So if you just open that up or pin me or spotlight me, whatever it happens to be in this particular platform, that'll make sure you have the best experience. But as it says, I am on this virtual world tour for my book, Telling Your Data Story, Data Storytelling for Data Management. Today, we're going to talk about leveraging the 3 V's of data storytelling for data management, kind of a knowing wink to the 3 V's of big data. And since I can't go anywhere, I can be everywhere. I've got 30 or so DAMA chapters I've been working with at some level to either have presented them or will be presenting them. I did Philadelphia this morning, Poland yesterday. I'm in Norway today. It's spectacular to be able to do all this without doing any packing. A couple of tips. Please put yourself on mute. Spotlight me, as I mentioned. We'll take a look at questions in the chat toward the end. I don't really pay attention to that part because I'm trying to focus right on the camera there and you, so I'll look at it later. But if there is something technically that goes wrong, Maria or Winfred, just please yell and I'll get my attention. Feel free to post if you like. Take screenshots. I'm a social media maven, so I certainly appreciate all that stuff. And we're going to be recording it, and I'll also provide a PDF version of the presentation for all of you to have as well. So before I get too far, I want to thank my sponsors. I've got 2 great sponsors who are funding me this year. I do a lot of content for them. I'm brand ambassador. We do a lot of work together, and they're sponsoring me for this tour. First, Wind Shuttle, they're a great provider of MDM and PIM platforms, and they also do a lot of work in terms of being able to integrate directly into SAP. They do some great stuff. Please check them out. And also the DAMA Group, a fantastic consultancy based in the UK. They specialize only in MDM and master data. So they've got some great folks there and a wonderful team that can help you do things like figure out the cultural problems. Those really systemic, deep issues when you're trying to implement a data governance and master data program. So if you're interested in either of those folks, DAMA Group or Wind Shuttle, let me know. Happy to connect you up with them. And they both have perfectly good websites as well where you can find out more. Every enterprise has a data story to tell, and it is about why managing data is of strategic importance. Now, you know that. I know that. But the people who aren't on this webinar don't always know that. Your business stakeholders, your executive leadership, your C-level folks who are wondering why we're even doing data management. Isn't all the cool stuff in AI and data science? Should we focus on that? What do we even need it for? We know they need it no matter what. And we need to get them more involved. We need to get them to understand it better. We need them more engaged, and we need them to fund it. You need money for the work you do. And we've got to go up against a lot of different initiatives at an organization that sound cooler and sexier than the foundational stuff we do. But it's just as important, if not more so, for a lot of the things organizations are trying to accomplish. So I like to start right off on this idea, explain my hat here. I am all about truth in data. That's what data management allows us to do. Determine the truth, structure that truth. You can handle the truth for your organization. And you've got to determine the truth first before you derive meaning from data. So that truth part, data governance, master data, reference data, all those foundational activities have to be done before you can really get the true meaning out of analytics and business intelligence. This is a theme I'm going to hit upon the whole time here. So obviously here's the meaning of my truth hat. I'm on the truth team, but we've got to determine the truth before we derive meaning. It's not chicken or egg. It is egg and omelet. If you don't have truth, you can't get meaning for your organization. So today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about my data story, personally, where I've been, a little more of my background, why you need a data story for data management in your organization, the relevance of data management versus all these other giant macro trends that are going on that seem to get so much attention, the types of data storytelling, because I'm here to share with you that there are 2 types, the one that everybody kind of knows about and a new one I'm trying to help develop. And then leveraging these 3 V's, vocabulary, voice, and vision. And then I'll put an example that kind of puts it all in play for you. Everything I'm showing you is in my book. And I'm trying to just highlight some common themes, some approaches, some nuggets that might be able to help you explain what you do better in a more accessible way. I'm not a data professional or practitioner like you are. You do that work. I really focus on the storytelling part. And perhaps today I can just give you a new way to talk about what you already know. So yes, I wrote a book, the topic of today, Telling Your Data Story, Data Storytelling for Data Management. You can see right on the cover, it is 99% buzzword free. That's a guarantee I can guarantee. I didn't want to overpromise there and make it 100%, but it's at least 99% buzzword free. I try and speak and give examples, again, that are very business accessible, plain language, simplify it. Probably the biggest negative comment I get on places like LinkedIn is, it's a whole lot more complicated than that. Well, you know what? It takes a lot of work to simplify things. And if you want to shortcut the understanding we need to get out of our business leadership, you've got to speak in simple language. One of my favorite comments that somebody made on Amazon was, it's a must read for anybody who needs funding in data management. That's got to be you. We all need more money there. And I am the #1 data book in Amazon in performing arts. Through some sort of bizarre AI-based categorization process, Amazon put me in a couple different product categories, and one of them was the performing arts category. So even though I ranked 193, I took a look and saw all the rest of the books were about music and dancing and acting. So that makes me the #1 data book in performing arts. See, you can make analysis, do whatever you want, can't you? More of my background, I'm a data management advocate, and as Winfred suggested in the intro there, I am about the why, not the how. We've got to do the how. You've got to get it implemented. But there isn't a senior leader I've ever dealt with on the business side who cares about the how until they understand the why. So we're going to focus today solely on the why part. You need both. There's a balance, but I'm trying to reinforce that need to answer those why questions. Why it's important for your organization. I learned this by representing some of the most iconic data brands on earth. Nielsen, Dun & Bradstreet, WPP, and Kantar. Worked in sales, marketing, consulting, and strategy work for all of those folks and helped them productize and leverage their taxonomy assets. Kind of the core data they have that fed into a lot of master data and reference data activity. You can't really see that stuff. So it helped me kind of hone my talent explaining the value of it, especially to business folks. And now I provide what I call data evangelism as a service, which is a way to get people excited about the work you do. I work both for enterprises as well as tech brands that are all trying to tell a better story. I do a tremendous amount of content. If you haven't seen it already, please take a look at my YouTube video, Too Much Tech Talk, starring the puppets of data. Two of my friends, as you can see on my hands there, the Chief Dog Officer, the CDO, as well as the ITB, who speaks only in buzzwords. I've got a cartoon called The Superhero Backstory of Master Data, the most important data any organization has, and even a few bad data ideas that you'll want to avoid. And spoiler alert, in case you haven't noticed, no, I don't do a whole lot of whispering. We save the whispering for the data. We've got to sell, tell, and yell about the power of data management. And because of my activity, I've been anointed as data god of data whispering by Crackdos. I'm the #1 thought leader in big data according to Thinkers 360. I hosted a 26.2-hour around-the-clock, around-the-world session called the Master Data Marathon. We're doing another one in September. You should check it out. We have a ball. And I was also recently put on the who's who of data management by Analytica. So I suppose I know what I'm talking about. And I think I'm kind of hardwired for the master data, reference data, ontology, taxonomy part of the space, because my parents told me as a kid, instead of building with my Lego, I sorted it. I'm sure some of you sorted your blocks when you were kids too. We need them both. We need Lego builders, but we also need Lego sorters. There's a part for all of us. But I think that kind of feeling in your head when you're a kid certainly helps you figure out what you're going to do later. So Lego sorters out there, you're all going to be in the data business. Now, what inspired me to write the book Was I was listening, and I do a lot of that, listening to what's going on in the market. And all this talk I heard about data science, data literacy, and data storytelling, where is the voice of data management? I didn't hear it. I don't know if you heard it, but it's not loud enough, it's not declared enough, it's not clear enough. And as usual, those parts of the space get way too much attention and a disproportionate amount of the spotlight. So I really felt I had to stand up for our side and put a flag in the ground and say, there is a story about data management as well that's as important to tell as anything you can talk about in data science. Now, if you follow some of the big leaders in the DAMA space, if you know Tom Redmond, the data doc, and John Landley, they're iconic figures in this space, been around for decades. They wrote a blog last year, a piece in Dataversity, which is also a site I blog for, and the headline was, Data Management Has Failed. And in there they said, as a community, we have failed to educate leaders and craft messages that people will listen to. Well, I read it, and I did a response the following month where my headline was, data management hasn't failed, but data management storytelling has. Let's not kill the messenger, but let's fix the messaging. Data messaging is really hard to listen to, and an overwhelming majority of data management programs suffer from an inability to demonstrate and then communicate business value. That's two things. You got to demonstrate it, then you got to communicate it. You got to do it, and then you have to tell people about it. Very similar to evangelism. People have to believe, and then they have to practice. So let's put a better story together. And just a fun fact here, our blogs ranked number 9 and 10 of all last year, so clearly our messaging was resonating with the DAMA community. McKinsey supported this notion. They published something as well about 6 ways to drive data governance excellence. And if you take a look at these 6, 3 of them, securing top management's attention, integrating with primary transformational themes, and generating excitement about data, you can't do any of those unless you tell a better data story. You've got to talk about it in a compelling way that really captures the hearts and minds of that audience. And we think about primary transformational themes and all the macro trends going on. I'm sure a lot of these bubbles are filled with ideas and initiatives that you're already focused on. Whether it's all of a sudden you've got to do a whole lot more e-commerce because COVID shut everything down last year, or if you're in the financial services space and you've got to know your customer, KYC, data privacy regulations that are sweeping the globe, taking your tangible good and making it into an as-a-service offering. Whether it's digital transformation, transforming your customer experience, the Internet of Things, or the 4th industrial revolution, these are the transformational themes that are on the minds of our C-level leadership. You look at that and say, where is data management? Well, you can't do any of them without it. All of those things take technology. Technology is hardware, software, data. If you have data, you need data management. So I'd suggest to you that data management is macro trend agnostic. No matter what these bubbles were filled with 5 years ago, or what we're talking about today, or what we're going to talk about in 5 or 10 years, it is always going to need data management. It's always going to need that foundational trusted content to fuel all those activities. No way around it. You're welcome to quote me on that. Data management is macro trend agnostic. So the truth about data management is that the value of every digitally transformative customer experience, every as-a-service offering, every foray into e-commerce, every enterprise software implementation is inextricably linked to the successful output of your data management efforts. No two ways about it. Now, that's just really a big, long, complicated way of saying GIGO. Garbage in, garbage out. Rubbish in, rubbish out. What you put in is what you get out. Kind of a common cliche. I'd like to elevate it a little bit, maybe goodness in, goodness out. But unfortunately, this doesn't drive a lot of action. When you tell people, well, GIGO, they don't run and fix it, do they? So we've got to find different ways to talk about it. This particular topic I elevate to the idea of the golden rule of data. Do unto your data as you would have it do unto you. What you put in through data management is what you're going to get out of business intelligence. So if you put bad data into an ERP, you get a lousy ERP. You put bad data into CRM, you get missed customer opportunities. You put bad data into fintech, you'll get a visit from the regulators. Bad data into ML, bad robots. Bad data into BI, BS. Bad data into AI, AS, artificial stupidity. No matter how you slice it or dice it, the golden rule of data prevails. Do unto your data as you would have it do unto you. Another way to say it, good decisions made on bad data are just bad decisions you don't know about yet. Definitely something we have to caution the business about. So when we talk about the topic of today, data storytelling, probably the hottest non-technical thing going on in the data space. Lots and lots of activity, lots of books about it actually too. Here are 9 books that I found, but there's probably 30. And looking at data storytelling as it existed, I noted it was all about analytics. It was all about business intelligence. Super important topic. We've got to help people understand their data and put it in a business context to drive action. But yet again, what about the data management side? And so I decided to write that one book, that's all we've got so far, on data storytelling for data management. So there are 2 types of data storytelling now, as far as I'm concerned. That one about analytics, deriving meaning, data literacy, data science, machine learning, artificial intelligence, visualization, but also the other data story about determining the truth. Data governance, data quality, master data, reference data, metadata, MDM, RDM, PIM, DAM, all those foundational activities that create and manage and structure and curate the trusted content we need for every organization. So these 2 kinds of data storytelling again, one for analytics, telling stories with data, using it. The other one for data management, about the data and making it. You have to have both. Not Sophie's choice here. You got to do both. But the point I'm trying to reinforce, and hopefully will help you too, is that there are 2 kinds of data storytelling. Now, I just want to make this clear because I got this really crazy 1-star review in Amazon, drove my average down for sure. And this 1-star review said, it's not going to teach you data storytelling, nothing to do with data storytelling. It's about data governance and data management. This person didn't even read the whole cover of the book. It says it right on there. So hopefully the rest of these folks did. Entertaining and amazing read. Data management made sexy. There you go. So if you like that kind of attitude, hopefully you're more on the 5-star side than that 1-star side. But I don't know what was wrong with that person. They didn't even finish reading the cover. Now, when you start your data management story, who are you? What approach are you going to take? Do you take kind of the Hans Christian Andersen approach? There once was some ugly data. It's a big, long, epic fable. Or do you look more like Don Draper and do a pitch that focuses on the business benefits? Obviously, I'm a big Don Draper fan from Mad Men. I like what he did at work, not at home was a different story. But it is a pitch that you're going to have to do to your management. It's not some kind of long, winding life story. It's not really technical, but it's a way to get them to commit to action. That's what a sales pitch is. And some people kind of bristle at the idea of selling, but selling, and that's my lifelong profession, it's convincing someone of the benefits of what you have to offer. It's getting their attention, it's building their interest, it's nurturing their desire, and it's securing an action. Nothing happens in business without that. So just know that the type of story you're going to tell, it's not a fable, it's a pitch. I've got a lot of tips on how to help you get up on your sort of sales acumen in the book as well. Or do you start with some of the great analysts' information that's often published out there? I couldn't help sharing this poll that Gartner did where they asked organizations how many of them were measuring the value of master data. 90% said, no, we don't measure it. And 10% said other. I'm assuming yes is in other. Or do you use the common language we use a lot in the space, our little cliches and terms that we use? We need a golden record, and your CEO is just going to say, that sounds expensive. Again, think about the words you use when you have these discussions. Do you want to spend the first 5 minutes explaining what a golden record is and then get to the point? Or do you want to come up with better ways to say it and get to that point more quickly? There's cartoons in the book. There's all sorts of fun cartoons in the book as well. Or do you just show them this? Here you go. Here's our data management story. This beautiful data ops, data engineering, data model. It all fits together, all the primary keys, and look at all the sources. And isn't it fabulous? You're going to get kicked out of an office if you show them this. This is the how. It's important to be able to do the how. It's important to be able to execute. But that's not how you gain business leader ownership and acceptance and support, by showing them this. They really don't care about it. I'm sorry to say. It's important to do, but that's not the story you want to tell. The way you start your data story about data management is to focus on the essence of what you do. What is the purpose of your company? Now, I've had the fortunate experience to talk to every kind of company and every level of data maturity all over the world. And I try to sum it up and kind of boil it down so the same ideas are relevant to every kind of enterprise. So every company I've ever dealt with is trying to provide value to their relationships through their brands at scale. And that's what you do. Whatever company you're in, you're trying to provide value to your relationships through your brands at scale. And at scale, that's where your opportunity is. At scale means you've got to have technology. Technology, again, hardware, software, data. If you have data, you need data management. How do you provide value? Only 3 ways. Grow the business, improve the business, protect the business, increase sales, operational efficiency, mitigate risk. The beauty of the kind of data that we try to steward on the master data side is that kind of content can do all 3 with the same data. So the power we've got in terms of the output of data management is really strong when it comes to enterprises and enabling those kinds of value that they're looking for. Grow, improve, and protect. Now you want to make this story relevant to your vertical, to your sector, to your business. And that's where you begin to fill in the blanks in this kind of broad statement. So when we talk about relationships, what do we mean by that? Customer, vendor, partner, prospect, citizen, patient, client. Those are all different kinds of relationships. Some relevant to some companies and some not, but they're all relationships, different words for them. But if you don't have a relationship and you don't have relationships in your business, you don't have a business. So the data about those relationships is the most important data you've got. Now, to provide value, you do it through your brand. And what do we mean by brand? Is it a product? Is it an offering? Is it a service? Is it a location, a banner, a finished good that's made up of ingredients and materials that come from different suppliers? Or do you provide a digital as a service offering? Again, how you do it is specific to your business, but why you're doing it is to bring value to those relationships. Now, if you're in the master data space, you certainly recognized already those blue and green words are really classic master data domains. The kind of work that we do and focus on to get a common and shared definition of all those blue and green words. So you've got to say pretty quickly, if we want to provide value to our relationships through our brands at scale, how's the data on those things? Probably got some trouble there. Duplicates, missing values, inconsistent hierarchies, bad segmentation, confusing geographies, really classic stuff everywhere. So we've got to fix that to be able to fulfill the promise of our leadership to provide value to our relationships through our brands at scale. Now, digital transformation is that in a lot of ways, is bringing that value at scale. And digital transformation, which I'll talk about from a data perspective, made up of people, process, tech, and and data, but I'll focus on the data part because it means people have more data now than they ever had. They've got to do things with it they never thought of to be able to enable their company to do things they never dreamed of. And data management is actually the foundation of digital transformation. And what I'll take you through now is a summary of what I call the 3 phases of digital transformation that I've recognized everywhere. A simple, business accessible way, I believe, to explain the value of what we do. So that first phase that every organization gets stuck in at some point or another is this idea of a legacy state. You've got multiple silos, sales, marketing, finance, operations, different prevailing systems support those departmental activities, and each one spins up at times another version of the same type of data. Now, legacy doesn't mean that you're old, but it does mean unintegrated. You could have set up a new customer data platform, a CDP, last week in marketing and suddenly created yet another version of customer. So you've got to have it integrated. You've got to have it shared and move from a legacy state to an integrated enterprise and become relationship centric. Put the most important things you do at the center of your business, both strategically and systematically. So when you think about the words we use, relationship centric, relationship centricity, customer 360, product 360, round, total view, the geometry works for me, but it's all around that same notion, whatever you happen to call it, of making sure everyone has the right data in the right place, the right time, in the right context, and can trust it to make those important decisions about your relationships and about your brands. Now, this is wonderful. You're making progress. You move from a legacy state to an integrated enterprise, but there's further work to go because you've got to be part of a trust network through integrated and connected ecosystems. How do you connect? How do you integrate? How do you interoperate? How do you communicate with other parties in your value chain, both on the supplier side and on the customer side? It can only be done if you follow 2 universal requirements. And these 2 universal requirements I've seen actually bring people from a legacy state to an integrated enterprise to connected ecosystems. So to move from silos to centric to networked, you need to make sure you do these 2 things. You have authenticated identity and a common data structure. Those are very much in the scope of data management. Did we authenticate the identity of a new party? Did we have it already? Was it a duplicate? Is it trying to be deceptive? Did we search before create? Is it actually a sister division of another company? We didn't realize there was a hierarchy. That validation process is critical to keep that garbage from coming in. Same thing with products, same thing with brand, same thing with all those master data and domains. And then do you have a common data structure or a link to a common data structure that it allows you to share that data in some way or another through your operations and your activity? Now, when you do that, that's scale. That's driving things at scale. That's when you can do something instead of 10 times 100 or instead of 1,000, 1,000,000,000, because you've got the data and the authentic identity and the common data structure to enable those activities. The software alone can't do it. It's got to have that data structure in there. Now, some examples of this, they're everywhere. First, there's these big 4 disruptors that everybody always talks about: Amazon, Uber, Airbnb, Netflix. Their services do not operate. Their brands do not provide value unless they've got highly structured, well-stewarded, expertly mastered data underneath. They've got codes and hierarchies, segmentations, and geographies for everything they do. If you put your thumb on an Uber app, they've got to find you. They got to know where you are. They got to coordinate with the available drivers. If you watch a movie on Netflix, they will serve up a similar movie based on their micro genre categorization and taxonomy, so you can have more entertainment in what they think you might enjoy. All of this is accomplished because they have this authenticated identity and a common data structure that's well governed and well managed. Another very tangible example, and one I use to show my family what I do, is the UPC, Universal Product Code, the barcode, that GTIN that's on every box, bag, bottle, can, bar, jar in every supermarket on earth. You could bring up any of those products to the front of the store and run it across the cash register and it goes beep. That little beep, that's authenticating identity. That POS system, no matter how made it, can track and identify that product no matter who made it and have the associated price, the category, the manufacturer, and all the rest of the data about that just from that single code. And even something that may seem as legacy as the color of ink and the color of things, Pantone has a PMS system, the Pantone matching system. It's been around for decades that allows designers to consistently communicate with each other about color. Every one of those numbers is mapped to a formulation that allows printers and designers and web designers to execute no matter what the tactic is. I could go on for days, but there's lots of tangible examples of trust networks through connected ecosystems that are leveraging authenticated identity and a data structure. So what's the opportunity at your company around these kinds of things? What are you trying to do in terms of your digital transformation? Make sure your leaders understand they're not going to get there without data management. Now, getting to these 3 V's, let me take you through them. There's vocabulary, there's voice, and there's vision. So the first V, establish an accessible vocabulary. The words we use are important. We've got to get away from this legacy lexicon that has clouded our thinking and our approach for so long. Words like quality. I know we need data quality. You want it to be high. You want to manage it. You want to measure it. It is super important. But if you try to sell data quality, it falls flat. It doesn't work. A little bit of heresy here, but selling data quality as the goal doesn't fly. Think about it. The word quality is a really emotional, subjective word. Everybody's got an opinion, and it shouldn't be one of your top initiatives to improve data quality, because no CEO wants that either. They want what it enables. So when you say data quality is our top objective, why? Think about that why. Focus on the why. Because we can serve our customers better, because we can execute e-commerce, because we can shorten our quote to cash process, because we can figure out our customer churn, whatever those are. That's the reason. That's what you want to focus on. And many of those things I just listed off, your business leadership has already committed to. Your role and your objective is to get in and say, those things aren't happening without what we do. So even words like cleansing and freshness and hygiene, these are old, ad hoc, subjective, project-oriented, clerical-sounding words that don't attract anybody's excitement. I mean, if you want to clear a room of business stakeholders, tell them you're going to launch a data hygiene program. They'll go running for the door. You also want to use definitive words. So that's the suggestion. Whether it's structure, we need a common data structure for our organization. We need to set a universal standard for the entities that we cover. We need interoperability with our trading partners. Those things are action-oriented, business benefit type words. So think about the words you use. Again, data quality is important. It just doesn't make a great pitch. And think about the terminology you have for those basic domains, your relationships, your offerings, your hierarchies, your segmentation, your market geographies. Now, I've got a couple videos on YouTube called the 4 C's of master data or of entity ontology, whatever you want to call it. And it's around this idea of you need a code, a company, a category, and a country. And that provides unique identifiers, hierarchies, segmentations, and geographies. What do you do in your organization that isn't about those things or combinations of them? Almost all reporting, almost all integration, almost all targeting includes that. So these are the core things. There's not 100 of them. There's only 4 that drive so much activity. So check some of those videos out. They're less than 2 minutes. And you want to use the industry vernacular that you've got, the nomenclature, the terminology of your sector. So every industry's got a business or a glossary out there of terms, the kinds of things they use and the way they talk about the relationships they have. You may call it a customer, but if you're a law firm, you call it a client. If you're in healthcare, you call it a patient. Again, relationships at a high level, but make it specific to your business and use the terminology that your business already understands. Here's a little tip. Use your business glossary. If you've gone through that work to get everybody in the room to come up with a common definition of customer, that's the terminology you use. So operationalize that work by leveraging those terms. The second fee is harmonize to a common voice. Now, harmony doesn't mean everybody sings the same notes, but it does mean they all sound good together. And you've got to come up and share and propagate some sort of elevator pitch. How quickly can you describe why you need data management to your CEO? A minute, 2 minutes, 90 minutes? You're not going to get 90 minutes. You're not going to get their attention. And if you start going too deep on the how, on the technical explanation, they will interrupt you and say, why? Why am I even here? Why are you even telling me this? I've had CEOs say that. They don't hesitate to really understand why this is even happening. They're way too busy. So you've got to get right to it and talk about those business benefits. Avoid all these kind of cliche false starts. I talk about them in the book, whether it's we need better data quality, again, important, but not a great sell. Data's the new oil, which people are arguing about that so much. How can it even be a good way to explain it? Or there's so much data now than ever before. These things don't really relate well to the specific business activity that we're trying to help. Be really specific around your business goals. You want a consistent tone and tenor. Again, harmonize to that common voice. Does your entire team, can they tell this story? Have you practiced it in front of them? Have you done any kind of role playing? Or are you going to just do your pitch and do your presentation the first time when you really need to do it? You've got to practice. You're putting together basically an internal communications program, an internal marketing program that uses communication vehicles. You might have a newsletter, you might have a website, you might have a data hero of the month. Go around and collect all these stories from sales, marketing, from operations and finance. Find those folks who have really helped their business and their activity by using the data you provided to them. Those stories will spread. And reflect your brand positioning. People struggle a lot to come up with the analogies. Data is this for our company. You know what? If you're a healthcare company, data is the lifeblood of our organization. A healthy business runs on healthy data. I'll give you one I heard this morning from the DAMA Philly conversation. There was somebody who had worked in IT at the United States Air Force, and he talked about how data was the payload for his business. That's a good analogy if you make missiles for a living, not a good analogy if you're in probably a different part of the world. But again, shortcut to understanding. Use the terminology and the imagery that your brand and your company already uses. Take your company's slogan and replace a word with data and see if it works. It's that simple. You've got to be creative, but you don't have to go way out there to create something absolutely new. People want to understand it quickly. And again, focus on those business topics about how you help grow, improve, and protect the enterprise. Here's another voice tip for you. Seek out other storytellers in your organization. They're in sales, they're in marketing, they're in communications. Sales and marketing tell great stories. If your salespeople can't tell a story, they don't make quota. So you want to find those folks who are good on their feet, who are good organizing that narrative, and get their help. You're the how, mostly, but I'm trying to help you and encourage you to build up those soft skills. Depending on your organization, you might have a formal communications department in HR and in marketing that actually have resources to help people in this personal development process. But you got to be able to communicate. And the last fee here, illuminate the business vision. Your work in data management must enable the strategic intentions of your enterprise. Where's your business trying to go? Listen to that. Hear that. You'll find the data hooks. Every business needs data. We know that. We don't have to explain why we have to exist so much, but show them the connection. Look at your major business initiatives and listen for the words around relationships, around brands. They're there, and you can hook those very quickly to the need for better data about those things that everybody can trust. And I suggest to you, we're all part of the business. We talk a lot about this kind of separation between The business and IT and data, we are all part of the business. You have as much of a right to figure out how to help your business as anybody. So realize you are part of the business. Now here's a vision tip. If you're not sure what those objectives are, take a look at what your leaders say. If you're a public company, read your annual report, not all the financials in the back, but those first couple pages that talk about the vision of the company, where you want to go and why. Look at your company strategy statement, your company meetings, the first couple slides and the last all hands update that you may have had. Again, if you're a public company, look at your investor day presentation. Those are great sources, sometimes even better than annual reports, for why your company's trying to do what they want to do and where they want to go. You'll find the ways data is going to make it happen, but you'll never find in those presentations, we need better data. Again, it's your job to connect those data dots. So let me show you how this all pulls together here with a live example. I've got, I think, 12 or 15 examples in the book, but I pulled out one of my favorites because it was so effective and we actually used it in the field to help an organization. We'd been dealing with the IT department that still owned data in this organization, and they were struggling. They'd already done their ROI analysis, their business case for better data management. They'd already put all these pieces together, but it needed to somehow connect with the business a little more closely, and they hadn't really filled that gap. So we applied these 3 V's, and it worked. It brought them over the edge. You still have to do all that other stuff, but you need this other piece as well. So we started off with their Investor Day presentation, as I suggested. Here's kind of a collage of some of the highlights of it, but it was from a large organization, a global enterprise, a Fortune 200 company. And we took a look and said, all right, the strategic intentions of this enterprise, what are they? What's the vocabulary, the voice, and the vision of this company? So let's see if we can find the vision. It's right there. It says our vision. It's got a big box around it. Our vision is we aspire to be the premier partner of choice for our customers and suppliers. Relationships, right there in their strategy statement. The single thing they are trying to do. So very quickly, how's the data about those relationships? When we think about their voice, it was embedded in their work around customer engagement, around enterprise effectiveness, around brand management, grow, improve, and protect, differentiate customer experience, localized efficiency and productivity. All these things take systematic and repeatable processes that get fed data. And then what's their vocabulary? What are the words they use? Again, the nomenclature about their relationships and their brands buried into these kind of statistics. They're a company doing business in 90 countries. You can just imagine all the different ERP and CRM systems they had as they grew by merger and acquisition, and the difficulty they had aligning those different definitions. 800 suppliers, 100,000 customers with all sorts of duplicate problems and hierarchy and segmentation and geographies, all built in there. So kind of a high-level summary of the work we took a look at, but very clearly, especially on the vision part, talked all about their relationships right up top. Now, how do we connect the work they needed to do in data management to all of this? Here's a single example as part of this story. We gave them the data reality. We took a look at their customer master and found that they had 185 duplicates of the same record. This customer, Panasonic Communications. Nothing strategic about that. There's no excuse for this kind of stuff. This is absolutely garbage in. These weren't a whole bunch of different ship-to locations. This was a mess. And so we had to say very quickly, if you aspire to be the premier partner of choice for Panasonic Communications, how can you possibly execute it? You cannot back up that promise with the data you have. You need better data to back it up. So very quickly, we go from this very large vision to the data reality that keeps them from getting there. You have a story like that. You've got an example that's similar to Panasonic. I haven't even looked at any of your data, but bet you got 50 ways you spell IBM or Coca-Cola or the New York Times or whatever the example is, and you've got to rub that in the nose tenderly but firmly of those business folks who are complaining about stuff that data doesn't do. This is keeping you from doing the work you need to do. It has to get fixed before you try and do anything in AI and data science. Remember, all those data scientists always complain about how they spend 60 to 120% of their time munging and wrangling data. Have they met you? Do they go to you to try and get better data to start with? Try to encourage that activity too. But at the business side, use your strategic intentions and map what you can do in data management to them, and you'll be successful. So the vocabulary is about the words you use, the voice is about the way you talk, and the vision is about why it's important. And I'll leave you with one thought here. The best arguments in the world won't change a person's mind, said Richard Powers. The only thing that can do that is a good story. So if you want to live happily ever after with your data management story, remember, every enterprise has a data story. It's about how you deliver value to your relationships through your brands at scale. There's two types of data storytelling, one about data, data management, determining the truth, and one with data, business intelligence, deriving meaning. Data management is macro trend agnostic and is the foundation of digital transformation. No matter where we were, no matter where we are, no matter where we're going to need it. Leverage the 3 V's of data storytelling, establish an accessible vocabulary, harmonize to a common voice, and illuminate the business vision. And an effective narrative captures the hearts and minds of your business. It will unify and motivate your team. It will give them something to rally around and generate excitement for data, as McKinsey suggested we need to do. And just remember one last time, the last actual page in my book, the last words I wrote were, hardware comes and goes, software comes and goes, data remains. Well, I think I'll take a little break here. We'll have some questions. I've got a couple of slides after that, but I'll take a pause, take a drink, and hopefully this helped you tell your data story.
Fantastic. Thank you. You should take a breath now.
Take a breath now, yes.
Yeah. That was really good. I was standing throughout the presentation out of just pure excitement. I just had to sit down now. Really enjoyed that. And we have some questions in the chat here. Quite interesting.
Yeah, look at all this. I wasn't paying attention here, but yeah, there's all kinds.
Fantastic. I will just read the first one to you. As the point is made about how to pitch data management, essentially being a Don Draper of data management, that suggests utilizing use cases. So you want to have some good use cases to present to the board, to present how the value of data management. But how do you pick those use cases?
You've got to go searching for them. You've got to do that kind of research. I mean, already the assumption is data is being used by your organization. Find those more exciting ones. Find those ideas, and they're less use cases than they are anecdotes in some ways. So is there an anecdote that kind of symbolizes the broader use case? Data is important for sales. We need a hierarchy structure because this particular salesperson was able to upsell an organization because they had all the sister and brother divisions, just making some of this stuff up. Or we're able to shorten our quote to cash process, which made us more competitive because it took us so long for our marketing and sales folks to pull together all the information. And so find those kind of data heroes in your organization. A lot of them, I'm sure, are in finance, operations, and so they'll be scattered around. You want to find them all, kind of in some cases, the more the better, and then show how they all connect. That's where the efficiency comes in. Because if you have a well-managed customer file, it'll help finance, it'll help operations, it'll help sales, it'll help marketing, and it's the same data.
Thank you. Next question. There are two clear paradigms from the data management story. So the one is the need to standardize, as it was mentioned here, but there's also a centralized, more kind of free market approach to data management, which is how stakeholders vote on how often they can plug into an API that delivers a data product, essentially showing they trust that data product. So how do you see this affecting the data management story about the need for universal requirements? Also considering that new technologies automate metadata discovery and lineage. Complex question there.
Yeah, complex question. Probably just dips a little more technically than I would normally be able to answer. But I think at a higher level, again, it's establishing that trust, no matter what that in that content. And so, no matter what APIs you have and all the rest of the systems, they don't replace the need to manage that content. I think a lot of people confuse that. I'm sure many of you and the person who asked the question probably been in the same space. You think, you've got folks who just think all you need to do is buy new software and it fixes everything. If you buy a new frying pan, doesn't mean you know how to cook. And everything demos beautifully because the data in the demo's perfect. Once you light it up with your own stuff, that's where the problems start to show themselves. So I think it's again, I don't think I'm answering your question directly around sort of the API calls and so on, but it really is reinforcing that need for that content before you go off and do all these other things. Truth before meaning, if that's a simple way to put it.
So I run a project a while back, and in that project we just basically sat down the CFO and the head of data and information management in a room, and we asked them questions. So do you have control over your financial assets? Do you know where all the budget posts are allocated? Do you know who has access to the money? And the CFO could answer yes on all of that, but they had a hard time answering those questions for the data. So I can see a question here coming in on how to start the data storytelling in an organization with heavily compliance-driven, and usually there's not much room for creative work.
I mean, if it's compliance-driven, there's a really bad data story out there about Citibank. Apologies, and I'll respect anybody on a call here who might work for Citibank. They just got fined $400 million for their lack of data governance controls. That's a terrible data story. So in the spaces that are really need to focus on a high level of compliance, there's that threat out there that you're going to blow a lot of money and damage your brand significantly if you don't put these controls in place. They're not the funnest stories, but they're certainly critical to an enterprise's health. So, you want to look for some of those depending on the sector you're in, I think. And as I mentioned over and over again, listen to where, how you start it is where your company's trying to go. You're an enabler. You help them get there. There could be, and look, you can look a couple layers down too from sort of the CEO's top 3 things. But let's say there's something in your organization, an initiative to put in a new CRM platform or ERP platform. Popular brand names out there of software that do that. There will have been work around the efficiency, the effectiveness, the payout, the ROI that comes from those things. But if data doesn't have a seat at those tables, those things aren't going to work. And so you can very easily, I think, attach your work to the value that people have already started to clarify around those types of initiatives. We can't put CRM in place if we don't have the right hierarchies, segmentation or definitions and so on. So I think some of us struggle sometimes from trying to prove the ROI and prove the value of data on its own, or data management as its own thing. We don't do it for fun. We don't do it for its own self. We do it to enable other things in the organization. And so look at all those other things and attach your work to that.
That's a perfect lead to the next question that we have. So we talked about breaking down silos, and we're talking about data management is covering the whole organization. But how do you convince parts of your organization to do data management work that doesn't benefit themselves, but then benefit others?
Yeah, it's a good question and a common one and a difficult situation, because there's, everybody at one level goes, yeah, we care about the whole place, but then they get down to their work and that's what they really focus on. Part of it is my reinforcement to get to higher levels in the organization. So one tactic, and there's a whole spectrum of them, is to get get that upper level sponsor, CFO, CEO if possible, board level, whatever it happens to be, that says, okay, it is important for our organization to set some common standards around data. Then you're not selling it to all the different departments. you're able to just say, look, you are part of this initiative. It's important. Yes, it may look like it's contributing to the rest of the business, but we're all part of that same business. You don't want to go too far at sounding too idealistic because it doesn't have the right kind of traction, but it does help if you have higher level folks supporting this and sponsoring what you're doing, because then you're talking to people about how to do it. You're not trying to sell them on why at that level. And you could just exhaust yourself if you're trying to sell every individual department leader or sub-department or group leader, or one sales group says yes and another one says no, or one sales guy says yes and another. It'll take you forever. So, hierarchy exists in organizations for a reason, and you can leverage some of that, especially if you get upper level sponsorship.
And if I remember that correctly, that was also the #1 point on the McKinsey study, the upper level sponsorship.
Exactly. Yeah. It helps.
We are already at the end of the webinar.
All right.
So thank you to Scott and everyone attending.
Thank you. I just want to wrap up with a couple of quick slides here. Listen, let me help you if I can. If you want to get the book, go to technicspubs.com, use my code Data Whisperer, and you'll save 20%. At the very least, please follow me on LinkedIn. There's a QR code there. If you use your phone, it'll get you right to my LinkedIn profile. Talk about being a structured data guy. I've got, as I said, a YouTube channel that's got 50 videos on there, all about the power and value of data management, the 4 C's, the 8 8s, the 3 phases, all kinds of the puppets, the cartoons, some serious stuff, but it's all there to help you make your point and tell your story. So if it works, you can't steal it from me. I'm giving it to you. Just, that validates your point and you say exactly the same thing. I'm kind of that third party guy who said what you said. And if you want a chance and you want to put a recommendation in my LinkedIn profile, if you like this, here's an excellent example. Bruce Lee said, Scott is the best and most entertaining public speaker I've ever encountered. Bruce has got good taste there for sure. But I want to thank everybody. I want to thank Maria and Winfred and Nina and everybody for pulling this together. And hopefully you enjoyed it and learned a few things. And if you change your story, if you picked up a phrase or two or a comment or a way to talk about what you already know in a different perspective, then I did my job today. So hopefully you found that value.
Thank you so much. And just a little note from DAMA. We have already our next events planned, and it's going to be a bit more about the how than the why. So we have a meetup about data quality coming up in June 8th, and actually a social event end of June. So looking forward to that. Thank you, Scott.
Thank you, everybody. We'll pick a winner of the book. I'll take a look at all the chat room and we'll find someone. I'll reach out to Winfred. I'll reach out to you and let you know who wins. But